Monday. I just pressed the Let's Go Live button. So let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet. Before we go ahead and get started, we got to make sure the tubes connect themselves. Otherwise, it's just me just rambling off here. And that has happened before many times, more times than I care to admit. But it looks like it's working, which is tremendous news. And that means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it. Shall we, my friends? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney at the R&R Law Group located in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. And today, my friends, we're talking about the Biden administration's collapse into oblivion. Yes, we've covered this already. The first time they found the documents, the second time we learned about the documents, and the third time we learned about the documents. And lo and behold, we are on document batch number 4. It's like Christmas in January. It's just nonstop packages from the White House. Unfortunately for them, it's not much like a Christmas present. It's kind of like a nuclear disaster. And we're going to talk all about it today because over the weekend we learned that there was a 4th batch of documents that got found. 4th batch, 4 documents, 6 documents, 6 buckets of documents, big giant boxes of documents. We don't know. But we are going to go through it today in detail. As you know, we've already gone through the timeline. We have a very robust timeline that we are adding and subtracting to and parsing and learning about as this saga continues. And so we'll just continue to fill this puppy out and track all of it. But we learned some new stuff. Okay, over the weekend, we've got 2 updates from the president's lawyers. One from Richard Sauber, special counsel to the president, and another one from Bob Bauer, another personal lawyer to the White House, in particular, Joe Biden. We're going to listen to both of those guys or read their statements and see how careful their language is. And we'll see if we can actually piece out what it means. We've also got a statement from the FBI. And then you can see I wrote down a whole slew of questions that just came to mind very quickly. And we're going to see where we can fit those in on the mind map. And of course, if you have information about any of this, please let me know, or if you have sources or materials about any of these questions, let me know in the comments or send me a DM or something. We're trying to fill this out and track it down. We're going to go to, after we read the lawyer statements, we'll see what the White House has to say about it because Karine Jean-Pierre got really beat up today. And you can see all of the different questions that they got. First one came in from this fella with his mask on, and then it was just like everybody in the media. All right, she just went around the room, one after another. You know you're not serious, right? Yes, we're serious. Okay, next question. You definitely aren't serious though, right? No, we are serious. Okay, next question. About regrets. Asking Karine, did you know about the search? Are you still confident that more documents aren't going to pop up? And of course, we've got Doocey time that we will attend to. Then we're going to ask ourselves about some changes in personnel. 2 individuals here. One is the Chief of Staff, Ron Klain, apparently going to be shown the door or exit. Don't know if he's being escorted out or if he's running out because the ship is sinking rapidly. We'll go through a story about him and about what's happening. Karine had a weird kind of a eulogy type of a situation today when she was in the press room, almost like he was dead or something, and he's not dead as far as I know. And we'll learn about the guy who's going to be replacing him, this fella, Jeff Zients, the guy who ran COVID and who came out in front of this big dystopian presentation with Fauci and CDC Director Walensky. And he said, you unvaccinated monsters are all going to die or something like that. He called it a winter of death, psychos. So we'll take a look at them. He's going to be in charge running the White House, which is just perfect. So we'll take a look. Then we're going to go to over Karine again because she might also be in trouble. There's some rumors around Fox News that she might also be on the way out, transitioning into a press secretary role for the campaign rather than the White House. Maybe she'll be replaced by John Kirby in the aftermath of this disaster. We don't know. But of course, I think he's a straight white male, so he really doesn't fit the mold. We'll have to ask ourselves about this fella. Saw a lot of him. His name is Ian Sams is his name. And he was really all over the media this weekend defending Joe Biden. And so we might see more of him, around here. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll get up to speed with who this fella is. And then in our final bit, we've got some serious Democratic panicking. Backpedaling is the phrase. Pelosi was out over the weekend. Chris Wallace asked her some questions like, hey, Nancy, you threw a hyperventilation fit when Trump did this stuff. Are you doing the same thing now? We'll ask her. We'll check in with Senator Coons. He's like, no, but Biden's innocent, though. We'll ask Dick Durbin what he thinks about it. And of course, Joe Manchin has a statement on this as well. And so as you can see, boy, we have a lot to get to, my friends. And if you want to be a part of the show, the best place to do that, the best place to go is over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We have an amazing community. We do member-only streams. We did one this morning. If you're a member on YouTube, you can get a lot of these same benefits, but you sort of miss some of the community and some of the other fun that we have. So come check us out at watchingthewatchers.locals.com for some extra exclusive content and for our great community. Also, thanks for supporting our sponsors on this program. ForPatriots.com is where you can go to get survival food, survival gear, and you can save 10% off by using code Robert. You can also protect your retirement with gold and silver. Go to robertlikesgold.com. See what they have to offer. They can send you a free informational kit. And our new sponsor today, my friends, is a big debut. Brick House Nutrition, my friends. You're probably wondering how I'm so vibrant all the time and so energetic and just full of glee and joy, even in spite of the doom around us. Well, it's because I've been eating my greens. And so we'll talk more about that. It's very, very nutritious for you. It can even help with your follicles, as you see here. So we'll talk about all that in a minute. And of course, our law firm, the R&R Law Group, online at rrlawaz.com. We help good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope. Laughing at this comment that just came in from B-Train. Where are we here? Is this the Ben Shapiro show? What the hell's going on here? What are all these advertisements? Hey, yeah. First of all, until I get a VPN company, all right, we're not even close. They have me blown out of the water. All right, so thank you for the comment, B-Train. All right, so hilarious. All right, so let's get this puppy queued up and get right into it. And I do appreciate you, supporting our sponsors. They are very, very, very important to what we're trying to do here. I'll explain a lot more about that. But there's a reason we're trying to improve some of the things that we deliver here. And so thank you for indulging our sponsors. All right, so let's get this queued up so we can dive into the content. Enough of the introductory conversation here. But we do have to close these up. And I opened all of them up. And it's difficult to navigate when they're all exploded like that. So let's get right into it. Biden documents ×4. The president just keeps forgetting about additional documents that keep showing up around his residence. This time it's Wilmington again, and it's the fourth time that this has happened. We've had a lot of questions about the prior 3 incidents, but the fourth time this came out, we are going to check in with 2 different attorneys representing the president. The first one is Richard Sauber. We've also got another one from his personal lawyer, Bob Bauer, before we check in with the FBI. We've got a bunch of questions about what happened, and then we'll see what Karine Jean-Pierre had to say as she tried to explain all of this away to the media. So let's start now with special counsel to the president. This is the statement that he released. It's not a lot. This is what he wrote. Statement of Richard Sauber, special counsel to the president. It says this, and this all came out on 1/21/2023. And so perhaps we should do just a quick timeline recap just to make sure we understand where we're at. These documents were all found some time ago, back on November 2nd. On November 2nd, we didn't know who actually found the documents, whether it was officials or official FBI or DOJ or whomever, but it turns out it was Pat Moore and somebody else. We still don't know who that other person is. That took place at the Penn Biden Center. The lawyer who found it is this guy, former presidential campaign lawyer for tons of Democrats, and he was definitely there on November 2nd, rummaging through the documents. We don't know who was also there with him. Some people are saying it might be Dana Remus or others, don't know. Apparently, Bob Bauer, which is the person we're going to hear from in a minute, he's been representing a bunch of these people. So you can see a lot of activity. We had questions on November 2nd. Who called whom? How did it all happen? Kathy Chung was involved. Was she an intern? There was a major response team that showed up. We clipped this from another article. Look at all these people. Anita Dunn, Bob Bauer, you see right there, husband and wife law team, I guess. Bob Bauer, the president's personal top lawyer, along with Anita Dunn. We've got Stuart Delarey, Richard Sauber, and others, right? So very, very small team. And we're asking ourselves about this guy. Ian Sams. He is now a spokesman for the White House counsel's office. So we've got just a ton of different people getting involved in this case. All of that on November 2nd. Now, that was batch 1. For some reason, they found a second batch on December 20th. There was a second batch that was found. Number 2, that was in Biden's garage. It was locked garage, and he's very safe and secure in there. So he is communicating, or that was communicated to the U.S. Attorney's Office by Biden's personal lawyer. Again, we don't know who that was. Was it Pat Moore? Was it Bob Bauer? Who was it? Don't know. We're going to try to figure that out. But why were they searching for those documents then? Because in mid-November, we also know this, that the DOJ, the Department of Justice, sent a letter to those original lawyers, Bob Bauer and others, that said, stop looking around the different locations. Stop searching in mid-November. The Department of Justice said, stop looking. They disregarded it. They kept looking. That's why they found more documents on December 20th. And then they sent that back into the DOJ. So we've got to have a lot of questions about all of this. The special counsel wasn't appointed this year, just one day before the White House was contacted by CBS, very conveniently. CBS says, hey, do you know about this story? And the White House confirms it. Evidently, that's when Karine Jean-Pierre found out about it. CBS then published the story on the 9th. Biden had his statements out by the 10th. 11th, Karine lies by omission. She also came back out on the 12th, the day they appointed the special counsel, and lied about it again. And we're going to get into all of that in the different clips. So then several additional things happen on January 12th, the same day they announced the special counsel, Robert Hur. A third batch appeared at Wilmington. Okay, they found the third batch, and they just found the fourth batch now on the 21st. So now that we have all of that preface completed, let's see what they say. Again, another statement from Richard Sauber, special counsel to the president. He says, President Biden directed his personal lawyers to be fully cooperative with the Justice Department as part of its ongoing investigation. Great. That's a throwaway sentence. There's nothing even there. Great. He's got really no choice at this moment. Nice he did that, but fine. That has been the case since a small number of materials were initially discovered at the Penn Biden Center. Very difficult to parse out how many documents in particular. Why don't you just tell us the number? His team voluntarily and promptly disclosed the initial discovery to the archives and subsequent discoveries to the DOJ, as is the proper protocol. Now, again, we have questions about that because we know the lawyers contacted the White House, right? And we pulled all of this from the actual timeline. This is why this stuff is so frustrating, because they're very sneaky with their language. All of this has come out from prior statements. The first question on November 2nd was, who found the documents and who did they call? We know that a couple of his personal lawyers found the documents. They called the White House. We also know that, as far as we can tell, nothing happened on November 3rd. If anybody has any information out there about what happened on November 3rd, I'd love to know about it. But we picked this up on November 4th because that's when the DOJ says that they got it. Okay, the ball was thrown, evidently, on November 2nd, but the DOJ didn't get it until November 4th. What happened to November 3rd? That was a weekday. There should have been somebody in there doing something about it. So every time that, they tell us this process and how it happened, we followed the process, we don't really know. They contacted the White House. What did the White House do with it? And did they contact the White House immediately, or did they contact their client, Joe Biden? Because they're his personal lawyers. Why would they call the White House? The White House counsel's office? Did they call Joe and say, Joe, look, we got to talk about this, bro. You've got a bunch of documents, man. Because they've got an attorney-client, an ethical obligation to their client. And all of the, it's just a wild situation. So how is this process going? It's extremely murky. We have no idea. Prior questions. Who called the White House? Who at the White House got the call? When did everyone get involved? When did Ron Klain know about this? Somebody had to wake Joe Biden up and give him the message. How did it all happen? We don't know. So as we continue to go through, let's see what else, right? He's making it extremely murky in that initial statement. Let's pick it back up. He writes, that has been the case since we discovered a small number at the Penn Biden Center. His team voluntarily and promptly disclosed the initial discovery to the archives and subsequent discoveries to the DOJ, as is the proper protocol. But why were you guys searching for on his property on December 20th when, as the DOJ has communicated, at least to the Washington Post, right? Question their sources if you want to. But they said that there was a DOJ letter that they reviewed that went over to Biden's lawyers, the same people who were drafting these statements, saying, stop searching. So this is all essentially in obstruction of what the DOJ requested. His team voluntarily promptly disclosed the discovery, as is the proper protocol. There is no proper protocol. You were asked to stop searching and you kept searching. Why? Since the beginning, the president has committed to his handling this because he takes this seriously. Now, they're going to get beat up over this by the media in a minute because that's obviously ridiculous. These documents are like floating all over the place. It's like junk mail. He's like, do you need this thing? It's got like big red letters on it. You know, it's like open now or face foreclosure, you know, and then the next one's like confidential. He's like, no, I don't need either one of those. You know, those spam mailings. As is detailed in the statement released by the president's personal attorney, which we're going to look at next, the president and his team are working swiftly to ensure the DOJ and the special counsel have what they need to conduct a thorough review. On Friday, the DOJ conducted a comprehensive search of the president's Wilmington residence, and it concluded late Friday night. All day on Friday. We're sitting here like a bunch of idiots, yucking it up here on our show, making fun of him, and they're searching for more documents. They didn't even tell us. That's really strange. Why they didn't show up there with guns and start publishing photographs of documents spread out all over the floor. Where were those documents that got leaked out to the Washington Post? Are we getting those soon? The statement from the president's personal attorney details how that search was conducted, what materials were reviewed, and what was found. Neither the president nor the first lady were present during the search. The president's lawyers in the White House counsel's office will continue to cooperate with the DOJ, even though you haven't been cooperating up until this point. The DOJ told you stop searching, you kept searching. And the special counsel to help ensure this process is conducted swiftly and efficiently. That's the letter from the White House lawyer, special counsel. So he referenced over to Bob Bauer, the personal lawyer for the president. And we've got two statements from him, two images to look at. Statements came out 1/21/2023 from Biden's personal lawyer. And here's what he said. In part one, he writes, actually, this is where I got this from originally. Ed O'Keefe posted this on Twitter. Says, here's the full statement from Bob Bauer, noting that the DOJ took possession of the materials. The first part of Bob Bauer's statements is as follows. He writes, the statement from Bob Bauer, personal attorney for President Biden. He says, at the outset of this matter, the president directed his personal attorneys to fully cooperate with the DOJ. Did he just copy and paste that from the other dude? These bros sharing presidential theft of documents statements? You're not supposed to share, like attorneys share motions all the time. It's like, bro, do you have a good motion to dismiss on this interlock issue? I'm like, yeah, I do. Okay, here you go. Got it. Send it over, right? Perfect. Got it. You're not supposed to plagiarize each other. We know Joe Biden is a plagiarist, but the lawyers aren't supposed to plagiarize each other. It's the same statement. He says, accordingly, having previously identified and reported to DOJ a small number of documents with classification markings at the president's Wilmington home, and in the interest of moving the process forward as expeditiously as possible, it's basically the same damn thing. We offered to provide prompt access to his home to allow the DOJ to conduct a search of the entire premises for potential vice presidential records and potential classified material. All right, well, that's a good question. Why now? Why suddenly now? We'll get there. This was consistent with the process described in the statement we released back in January and followed after the personal attorney's discovery of the documents found at the Penn Biden Center. They are papering over an entire portion of this timeline. They're not telling us about all of the other letters and conversations back and forth where they were told to stop this process. So it's not consistent with the process they described previously. I guess it is. They're disregarding the DOJ. I can't get over it. Now, they say the DOJ requested that the search not be made public in advance in accordance with the standard procedures, and we agreed to cooperate. Of course they did, because this was a consensual search, right? It wasn't a bunch of FBI agents going in unannounced to a presidential candidate. He wasn't announced at the time, but he is now, former president's residence, and rummaging through his documents and Melania's drawers. So they agreed to cooperate. Now, what they would say is well, we didn't publicize what we were doing at Mar-a-Lago. Trump did that. We were just going to go there and just do all of this quietly, just like we were doing here. But Trump publicized it, and the media publicized it, and we would have just kept this all under wraps, so fair is fair. We would have kept it fair for Trump and quiet. We would have kept it fair and quiet for Biden as well. But they sort of miss the part where one is consensual, the other is forceful and physical, requiring armed FBI agents showing up unannounced and entering over the objections of local attorneys, right? This was consistent, maybe, but one was an FBI raid, one was not. You knew about all of Trump's documents, not Joe Biden's. FBI even came and made sure they were secure. The DOJ requested that the search not be made public. They say, yesterday, more details. The DOJ completed a thorough search of the materials at the president's Wilmington home. It began at approximately 9:45 a.m. and concluded at around 10:30 p.m. at night. Covered all working, living, and storage spaces in the home. Presumably that means the garage, and hopefully they found Hunter's secret compartment, wherever that is, the safe room, or the basement with all the kids in it. Didn't Sam Harris say Hunter had a basement with kids? I wonder if they checked the basement. It says working, living, and storage spaces. Yeah, the storage space probably includes the kids. By agreement with the DOJ, representatives of both the personnel legal team and the White House counsel's office were present. So his official personal lawyers and his White House lawyers were both there. In the second half of the statement, they say, the DOJ had full access to the president's home, including the personally handwritten notes, files, papers, binders, memorabilia, to-do lists, schedules, and reminders going back decades. The DOJ took possession of materials it deemed within the scope of its inquiry. Ooh, here we go. Including 6 items consisting of documents with classification markings and surrounding materials, some of which were from the president's service in the Senate, and some of which were from his tenure as vice president. So very old documents, all the way back to old Senate time, Senate Joe. Remember, he was the vice president there for 8 years, quite a long time. And then Trump was in there for 4. So these documents have been floating around there in Hunter Biden's garage for a long time. The DOJ also took for further review personally handwritten notes from the vice presidential years. Don't know what those said. Now, if we rewind a little bit, it says including 6 items consisting of documents with classification markings and surrounding materials, some of which were from the service in the Senate. So 6 items, I mean, it's consisting of documents, right? So it's sort of a vessel, a container of some type. It's got documents in there with classification markings and other surrounding materials. So other non-classified documents, that's other memorabilia, other to-do list, schedules, reminders, Post-it notes, binder clips, whatever. So are they walking out with, it's not 6 documents, okay? It's not 6 items or 6 documents. It's 6 items consisting of documents and surrounding materials, some of which were all the way back from the Senate years. So it could be boxes. It could be boxes of materials. 6 box. Why didn't they say boxes? It could be manila folders. It could be I don't know, anything else that you can shove something in, I suppose. 6 items consisting of documents, any type of container. It says, as noted in the statement we released previously on January 14th, we have attempted to balance the importance of public transparency where appropriate, in other words, nowhere, with the established norms and limitations necessary to protect the investigation's integrity. We'll continue to do so throughout the course of our cooperation with the DOJ, which of course they control as the executive branch and in control of the White House and in control of basically the entire Democratic Party, as it's been for quite some time. Now, the FBI also confirmed this, in case you're wondering. Ed O'Keefe posted this also on January 21st, telling us that Adriana Diaz and another person, Ardeen Fari, they obtained a statement from Assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Fitzpatrick. Another name enters the game. Joe Fitzpatrick confirming that the FBI executed a planned consensual search of the president's residence in Wilmington, Delaware on Friday. So we'll make sure we parse that one out. Joe Fitzpatrick, U.S. Attorney, confirmed Biden search on the 23rd. So we get some interesting names now. Now, again, not a lot to parse out from those two statements. They're very tight-lipped. They're almost the exact same introductions, and it's basically plagiarizing one another. I mean, come on, guys. Copy and paste is appropriate if you are a journalist at the New York Times. You're a lawyer, all right? It's supposed to be slightly better than that. President Biden directed his personal lawyers to be fully cooperative. Let's see if it's exactly the same. Oh, yeah. Oh, he said at the outset of this matter, President Biden directed his personal attorneys to fully cooperate. It's basically the same thing, just a little slightly different introductory phrase. It's not that clever, guys. We can all tell. Stop copying and pasting. Anyways, the questions that we have are as follows. One, what prompted the FBI search right now, or the DOJ search in this case? What prompted them to just suddenly decide on the fourth batch of documents to get out there and start rummaging around? We already knew the first batch didn't prompt a search. Neither did the second batch, and neither did the third batch on January 12th. So why now? Why is the DOJ getting involved right now? I still have questions. Who specifically found the original documents in November? Pat Moore and who else? Don't know. What happened on 11/3? In between that time, between the documents were found and the DOJ was notified. Who was communicated with? Who specifically found the December 2022 batch? And why did they disregard the request from the DOJ to stop searching? They were told to stop searching in November. They searched and found more documents in December. Why? Did anyone at the DOJ approve that and say, oh yeah, keep searching and let us know if you come up with anything? And if so, why? And who was the person so we can verify or not whether they had security clearances or not? I want to know when Karine Jean-Pierre knew about this. I want to know who confirmed that the search was complete back on January 12th. The same day they announced that Robert Hur was appointed, we were told this was the end of it. Yes, they found a couple more documents that morning, but that was it, man. We're done. There's not going to be anything else coming. Well, there's a lot. And so we turn our attention now over to Karine Jean-Pierre. The press secretary currently, Karine Jean-Pierre, got absolutely hammered by the media today. You can see all of these people had different questions about the documents. We're going to start off by turning our attention to this fella. He had a question about Ron Klain, which we'll circle back to borrow from our old press secretary, before he asked Karine about the documents. And obviously it was a big news weekend. How does Karine come out and start the press conference and the press briefing? With this.
And then I'll let my colleagues follow up on that one. And then finally,
feel free.
I'm
sure they won't be shy to follow up.
On the FBI search of the president's home
Yes.
on Friday, the president, when the initial batch of documents were reported a couple of weeks ago, said he was surprised that they were classified documents found at the Penn Biden Center.
Very surprised.
Was he surprised that there was classified material found at his home on Friday, as well as the prior discovery of his house a few weeks ago?
So, look, again, there's going to be a lot of questions on this.
You better believe it.
I know my
We are just getting
colleagues,
started.
The White House counsel's office has been pretty diligent on taking questions these last couple of days. There's going to be a call in less than an hour or so.
Which is not a public call. So the White House counsel's office evidently had a call today, and it's not public. It's not in front of the American people. I guess the reporters are calling in and joining it, and we'll see all the the news from that probably tomorrow morning. But why can't she answer those questions, or why can't they bring the White House lawyer out to come out and comment on that?
From my White House counsel office, and look, they're going to answer the questions from here. Any specifics to the Department of Justice, any specifics to this particular legal matter, I would refer you to the Department of Justice. I'm going to continue to be prudent from here. I'm going to continue to be consistent and make sure that those questions go to my colleagues in the White House counsel's office.
Nada. All right. So first question, swing and a little bit of a miss, kind of a dud there. Now we're going to continue on. We've got a bunch of reaction from the media before we finish out the segment with Doocey time, which of course is all our favorite. But first, let's talk about Brickhouse Nutrition, my friends, because my goodness, it's very important to be healthy out there. You know, we all just are coming out at Christmas and the holidays, and we all like to lose a couple of those leftover pandemic pounds. You know, all these ads for weight loss and pills and diets, fad diets, all that stuff. Of course, you probably tried it, been there, done that. Of course, I have as well. But it's important to eat healthy servings of fruit and vegetables. It's pretty simple, right? If we just do that regularly, we just eat healthy, things change in our bodies. We get healthier and we start losing weight, feeling better, having more energy. Vegetables and fruits, they take a lot of time to prepare. Not a lot of people can squeeze them all in. That's why we have this amazing new sponsor on our channel called Field of Greens, where they have science-backed formulas with specific fruits and vegetables and other proper nutritional products that help you lose weight, burn calories, feel good, feel healthy, feel energized. Field of Greens is backed by a better health promise. You'll look healthier, you'll feel healthier, and you'll look great the next time you show up at your doctor's office. He'll say, "Dang, you look amazing. Keep it up. What are you even doing here?" So let's get you started. Go on over to Brickhouse Nutrition, my friends. There you can try this new Field of Green product at Credible. And you can use promo code Robert to save 15% off your very first order from Brickhouse Nutrition. You see it right there. BrickhouseNutrition.com. Look healthier, feel healthier, start the new year right, and feel energized and vibrant with greens coming out of your pores from BrickhouseNutrition.com. All right, my friends. Let's continue on. Back over to the White House, the press briefing room. People are very upset with Karine Jean-Pierre. This fella said, all right, Karine, look, you come out here every single day and you stand up at that podium and you tell us how serious you are about these documents. And every couple weeks we come out here now and there's, guess what? New documents that just fell out of Joe Biden's rear end. So the question is, how are you taking this seriously? You're not giving us any information. You're not changing any policies. You're not bringing out anybody to communicate with us. We've got no new data or details. What are you doing to demonstrate that you are taking this seriously beyond just coming out here and telling us you are?
Thank you. When you and the White House and the President all say that the President takes these classified documents very seriously, without commenting on the ongoing legal issue, what would you point us to that would demonstrate that seriousness?
I'm going to really refer you to the White House counsel's office. I am. I'm going.
You can't tell us how.
I am.
So the President continues to say that he takes it
Well,
seriously, and you can't demonstrate how he takes it
hold on.
seriously?
Let me just finish. Let me finish my answer. I'm gonna refer you to the White House counsel's office, and I'm gonna refer you to the statements that you've received from his personal lawyer. I'm gonna refer you to the 45 minutes of conversation, of back and forth that my colleague has had with all of you last week. He's about to do another one where you can ask questions about this particular legal matter.
They're asking about the current president, the White House, about changing some policies so this doesn't continue to happen.
Again, that's where this belongs. That's where I'm going to refer you to. But again, you've seen the statements. You've heard from the president a couple of times. You've heard from his personal lawyer. You've heard from the White House counsel's office. And that's where I'm going to leave
On
it.
a different topic.
Sure.
Not anything useful. So first gentleman comes out. All right, you're not obviously serious about this. You say you're serious. We know you're not serious. You're not doing anything to confirm you're serious. So let's just double down on that. We turn our attention over to this woman and she says, all right, Karine, listen, we've had enough of it here. Okay. I've been sitting in this press briefing room for like 3 weeks now. You lied to us. You lied by omission. You lied directly to us. We had many questions about all of this. How is it possible for you to say that you are serious about these materials when you are not doing anything to help us get any information about the case?
Another question on the documents. You have said, though, from this podium many, many times over the
Many.
last 2 weeks that this president takes the handling of classified material very seriously. And yet we continue to learn about more documents being found and discovered at his home, including now some that go back decades to his time in the Senate. So why should the American people believe that this president takes classified material seriously and the handling of it?
Look, the president.
Because he like was literally using them as a coaster, Karine, like a coaster. What is the American public supposed to say to that?
The American people heard from the president directly on this when he was asked by your colleagues at least twice now about about how he sees this process. And he was very clear with the response of what we're currently seeing. And he says, I take this very seriously. He said, I didn't know that the documents were there.
You can, oh, did you catch that? He said that I didn't know the documents were there. Oh, very curious, because we hadn't heard that before. The only language we heard was surprise.
At least twice now about how he sees this process. And he was very clear with the response of what we're currently seeing. And he says, I take this very seriously. He said, I didn't know that the documents were there.
Did he say that?
And look, I think as it relates to the American
I don't
people
think he said
and the
that.
president standing with the American people, it is going to be up to them to decide how they see this president. Look, this is a president that came into office, 9 million people had lost their jobs. The unemployment rate was 6.
All right, so here's what she got better at this today. She has now talking points that she reads through, which is what she should have been doing this whole time, rather than doing the roundabout loop-de-loop, psycho mode where she just said, I'll defer you to the White House counsel, DOJ, White House counsel. He takes it seriously. I've been consistent. I want to be prudent, blah, blah, blah. Instead of doing that, she should have come out here and hit the bullet points one after the other. She does that now. We'll listen, and then we'll fast forward through the rest of it.
3%, and hundreds of thousands of small businesses had closed their doors. And in the past 2 years, we've created nearly 11 million jobs. The unemployment rate is at a record low at 50-year
right, here it is.
Low.
All right,
Were the
great.
best years for small businesses applications on record.
All right, fast forward. Fast forward.
Just walked New York City.
Okay.
And had to say I would.
All right, enough.
Just
Next question.
in just less than an hour or so.
But I do want to ask one more time.
So she's just filibustering, right? We call that just wasting time. Just run the clock out. Okay, Karine, just start talking. She's watching the clock tick, tick, tick. She's like, all right, just keep going on this economy thing. Just tick, tick, tick. Just can't go fast enough. Finally, she runs out of breath. Back to the reporter.
Because you have been the one messaging that he takes this seriously. You have also been saying over and over again that you are cooperating fully with this investigation.
That hasn't changed, Mary.
But given that, why then did it take several searches and the FBI coming in to uncover the full extent of the documents at his house?
I understand your question. I've said many times, the president has said
Do you though, Karine? Do you really understand it?
many times, he takes this very seriously. You've heard directly from him. You just said that his team is cooperating fully. And just want to add, and you heard from his team that the FBI was invited into the president's home. I'm not going to
For tea and ice cream?
go beyond that. That was in the statement that was released on Saturday. Again, these are questions that have been answered that have been answered from here. That has been answered for my colleagues. Anything else? My colleague's going to speak to all of you in just a few minutes, a few moments, and you can ask more detailed
One thing
questions.
you just said. You just said the president said that he did not know the documents were there. I'm not actually sure he has said that clearly. Are you saying the president did not know?
Well, he said he was surprised. He said he was surprised.
Any of the documents?
He said he was surprised. I'm just going to leave it there, and I'm going to refer you to the White House counsel's office. I'm just repeating what he said, and he said.
What you just said. You said
He
he did not know
said,
the documents were
he
there.
said he was
Retract it,
surprised
Karine.
that the documents
Retract
were
it.
there. He said that, and that he takes this very seriously. That's what I want to make sure that the American people understand. And I just refer.
American people might
Can you describe what seriously means? Okay, because Karine, he's got this tendency, it looks like, to just leave literally classified top secret documents just all around his house. Garage. We saw the desk cabinet one, when he had the side drawer. We have now, I don't know where these new documents were found, but they're all over the place. So has the White House changed his behavior? Is somebody like a minder walking around with him, like the guy with the broom sweeping up the classified documents, everywhere he goes? Oh gosh, Mr. President. Oh gosh, Mr. President. Oh gosh, he's just all over the place. Sweeping up. She doesn't want to even answer that.
question that. Given that you keep every few days it seems we are finding that more documents have been found at his house.
What I'm telling you is what the president has said, which is he takes this very seriously. I will refer you to detailed explanations from statements that have come from his personal lawyer. Again, anything further on this, my colleague is going to be taking your questions, Mary. In the 4 o'clock hour, I would refer you to them. Okay.
All right, so I guess at 4 o'clock hour, we'll see what the White House counsel has to say. Whether it's anything useful or not is to be seen. I'm going to guess it's probably another stupid statement because they've been telling us they're not getting anything from them. In fact, we have somebody who answers, who explains that. You keep referring us over to the White House counsel's office, but they're not telling us anything. It might be this woman. Let's check in and listen to this one. Karine, we're on the 4th batch of documents now. Does the president still have no regrets, or are the regrets starting to hit now?
Thanks, Karine. The president said last week that he has no regrets when it comes to the handling of classified documents. Why doesn't he have regrets, given that classified documents keep turning up?
4 times.
I talked about this last week. I'm not going to go beyond what the president said. Again, I would refer you to the White House counsel for anything further on this legal matter. Again, I spoke to this yesterday. I'm just not last week, pardon me, last Friday. I'm just not going to go beyond what the president.
That's not a legal question. It's about his statement from last week.
I understand. And I said, I'm not going to go beyond what the president said. And I think it speaks for itself. I'm not going to go.
It doesn't actually. 4 batches of documents have been found. A lot of his Democratic colleagues are saying they would regret that. And that was irresponsible. In fact, many Democrats, people like you, Karine, people like Joe Biden themselves called it very irresponsible when other people had this. Now it's been 4 times. So do you regret that? I mean, why wouldn't you comment on that?
Into what he meant or didn't meant. He laid it out. He said it to all of you when he was out I believe in California, when he answered one of your colleagues' question or when he addressed this particular matter. I'm just not going to go into what he meant or didn't mean.
But going back to what Mary was asking, when the president says that he takes classified material and the handling of it very seriously, this weekend, top Senate Democrats who have known him for decades,
we're going to get there,
described this situation as unacceptable and completely irresponsible.
Yeah, we're going to get there. We're coming back to that.
They also said, if I may add, that the president is handling this in the appropriate fashion, that the president and his team has been completely complying completely with the investigation. They also...
That's not true. The DOJ asked them, don't search. Mid-November, they kept searching. That's obstruction.
Said that. And so I will leave it up to their comments up to them. I'm not going to go beyond what they have said, but they also said that piece too. And I think it's important to note that they believe that the president has handled this properly as well.
Who's paying the president's private attorney?
Great question.
I mean, it's his private attorney. So I would leave it. I would just say it's
who's
his private
paying the
attorney.
bill.
Any questions, anything in particular to this, I would ask the White House counsel office.
We've asked his private attorney at least 4 times, and they haven't given us an answer.
Oh.
Don't we deserve to know whether he's paying
No.
for it or
I
a
hear you.
super PAC?
No. Who do you think you are, lady? A journalist, a reporter? No. You don't deserve to know anything. This is the Biden White House.
No, I totally understand, Nancy. My colleague is going to be speaking to you momentarily. You can ask
him
that question in that conversation, on the record conversation with all of you. Okay.
Next
On
question. Who is paying for these lawyers? Who is it? Is it his super PAC? Is Joe Biden paying for it personally? Are the Chinese paying for him? Where's the money coming from? They're asking the White House about that. They're asking the White House counsel about that. Nobody knows where Joe Biden is. Nobody wants to answer any of the questions. It's amazing. So now it turns over to Karine Jean-Pierre. This woman asks Karine, all right, Karine, you have been out here in front of us for a long period of time, and we're learning bits and pieces of this saga day by day. Question for you, Karine. Did you know about this search that was taking place over the weekend in Delaware?
On Friday, when we were here, you were asked about the president going to Rehoboth and if that had anything to do with searches, and you declined to answer that. Did you know Friday there was a search going on at the president's home?
So I'll
Yes, I did. In fact, I bought him the shredder that he brought over there.
say this, and I think I said this on Friday as well. They go to Delaware almost every weekend. We put
And a lot
out
more
guidance
recently,
last
yeah.
Monday. As you know, Monday night that they would be spending the weekend in Rehoboth, so it was indeed pre-planned. So just want to put that out there, and I'll just, mention what was said in the statement just on Saturday, which is the DOJ requested that the search not be made public in advance, in line with its standard procedures, and we did adhere to that. As you could understand, that is something that we are going to take very seriously.
Yeah, because it keeps it silent, right? It keeps it as quiet as possible. You guys don't want this stuff out. My question is also this, though. Is it part of the FBI standard procedure to also dump the documents on the floor and then take photographs of it and then leak it to the national news media? Because we're still waiting for that to happen. We haven't seen those documents yet. Was that part of the DOJ's procedure, part of the FBI's procedure there, Karine? Or what happened here? Because it seemed like this went off a lot differently.
And it was, again, a request from DOJ for us to make sure that we did not make that public in advance.
Should we anticipate other searches are possible?
That part, I would definitely refer you to the White House counsel.
Why wouldn't they already be searching Rehoboth and every other location that president has been in? Do they trust him to say that they've gotten everything? How could they possibly do that? They keep finding documents. They're on their fourth batch of documents. Is anybody finding documents now at the Trump residence? No. Or any of his other locations? No. It's all done. So it seems like letting Joe Biden and his team just deal with this has been pretty much a catastrophe. They just keep finding documents. The full search should have been done right after November, after the first batch was found. We're on our fourth batch. Fourth batch, man. These documents are just falling out of closets. And they still haven't gone and apparently executed searches in other residents. Listen, they told us that these were nuclear codes and the nation's most cherished secrets, and that if anybody got these, our allies wouldn't trust us anymore and all of our treaties would evaporate overnight. That was their standards. They said that that was what these documents meant and symbolized, not us. We were sitting here going, you guys are idiots. These are love notes from Kim Jong-un, morons. But they turned it into a big catastrophe. So if it's the same thing, it's the same type of documents in both locations, why are his other residences not being scoured and searched to make sure that, you know, the Chinese aren't out there rummaging around, or Hunter Biden's crackhead friends aren't out there now hopping over the backyard fence in Rehoboth? If it is that serious.
Office.
More broadly, given the fact that classified documents and their handling have been an issue, has the White House counsel put out any guidance to staff members here who have the opportunity to interact with classified materials to just reaffirm how that should be done? Or has there been any follow-up on proper procedures for staffers? Not the president, not this circumstance.
Yeah. No, I understand the question. Again, you're going to have an opportunity to ask that very question to the White House counsel's office about if they're going to, you know, what's their next steps as it relates to staff. That's something that's better for them to answer, and they'll be speaking to all of you momentarily.
Not any answers there either. And these are very simple procedural answers, right? Because if she answers these questions and says, yeah, actually, in fact, we have made some corrections. Actually, we did. We reviewed our document policy, our classified material document policy. We had a staff meeting. We got all of Joe Biden's aides together and we said, listen, the president has dementia and he poops himself a lot. So you have to make sure that the classified documents don't get stuck up there. And so just keep your eyes on him everywhere he goes, right? Did you modify any of that? If she admits that, then that's acknowledging that they were doing things improperly and they're making corrective action. And so maybe they were malfeasant or negligent in the original operations. And now the corrective behavior is indicative of the prior malfeasance. But she says we're not changing or doing anything differently other than we're cooperating. So we go over to this individual, also in the White House press room. And she is unhappy with Karine Jean-Pierre. Why? Because Karine Jean-Pierre came out and lied to all of us. And we caught this one some time ago. In fact, I thought that the lie was by omission on January 11th. Now, she's going to come out and refer us back over to the January 12th date. But I think the January 11th was really when she lied by omission. Okay, she also essentially lied on January 12th. She told us that all of the documents at that moment, basically the search was complete. You know, search concluded. KJP said search concluded on this date. This, of course, is the 12th. And that's the same date that Robert Hur got appointed. We had the whole speech from Merrick Garland. It all came out on that day. Also, on January 11th, though, that's when apparently the third batch of documents were found. Okay, so in other words, they were actually found on the 11th, but they were communicated the next morning on the 12th over to Special Counsel Robert Hur or to the DOJ. So anyway, the point is, at the January 11th and January 12th dates, we should have been done with all of the documents. Okay, we should have gotten all the documents. The searches should have been completed. Karine Jean-Pierre should have said, we're done. Everything's finalized. Right? We're not seeing anything more. But that's not exactly what happened here. Karine, you promised us searches were completed and that there were not going to be any other documents that surprised the president. What happened?
Out for you. Good, Karen.
Has the president invited the Justice Department to search his home in Rehoboth, Delaware?
I would refer you to the White House counsel's office, who will be speaking with all of you.
We'll find out
pretty soon.
Okay. And on January 12th, in response to my question, you told me the search is complete. He, the president, is confident in this process. But since then, the searches have continued. More documents have found. Is the president still confident in this process and how his lawyers have carried out the search for material in his residence?
So the search wasn't complete at all. The search was still ongoing. Back on January 12th, they didn't find everything. The DOJ got wind of it and said, oh, we better go look. They brought the FBI out there and searched the whole place. What changed? What was the trigger? Were they looking at the first batch of documents, the second batch, the third batch? Did Joe Biden say, oh, man, you know what? That extra bedroom we forgot about. Oh, man, that's a bunch of stuff in there. What happened?
He's confident in this process. And my colleague has talked about this. This is an ongoing process. And, we've continued to provide the information that we've had at the time. Anything else, anything specific underlying issues on this or questions that you may have, I would refer you to the White House counsel's office.
And a non-process question then. We had a poll with Ipsos, ABC News Ipsos, that was taken before the most recent items were discovered that found that 64% of Americans believe the president acted inappropriately in the way he handled classified files.
Polls coming out.
How worried is the White House that this issue is hurting the president's trustworthiness in the eyes of Americans?
Look, our focus is going to continue, basically what I've said to your colleagues on delivering for the American people. That's going to be our focus. That's what the president's going to do every day in and out, which is what can we do to make the lives of Americans a little bit better. And that's what he has done. And I've laid out the historic pieces of legislation that the president was able to do, some of them in a bipartisan way. And many of the pieces of legislation that have passed by his economic policy plan has changed the lives and will change the lives of millions of Americans across the country.
Sure is.
That's going to be our focus. I'm not going to go into, a rabbit hole or go into details or thoughts about polls. That's not what I'm going to do from here. What we're going to do is talk to all of you every day about what our message is to the American people and continue to have that healthy back and forth and talk about our policies, talk about what the president is doing again, every day with the vice president, with his team, to make sure that we deal with issues.
But we're not going to talk about the
truly matter,
confidential documents,
to the American people. Just yesterday, you heard from the vice president in Tallahassee, who talked about an issue that mattered to the American people. We saw that, right, coming out of the midterms, which is making sure that women's rights were being protected. When you think about Roe, yesterday it would have been 50
Filibuster,
years of Roe, which was a constitutional right for Americans.
50 years of Roe. It was a constitutional right for Americans. That wasn't a constitutional right for Americans prior to Roe.
And so that's what Americans want to continue to see us do, fight for their rights, continue to deliver in a way that they can feel it, right? When it comes to gas prices, bringing those prices down. When it comes to healthcare costs, bringing those costs down. And that's really going to be our focus. Go ahead.
That's another one from Karine. So still confident, no questions. Search wasn't complete, but, things go on. Karine Jean-Pierre, it's kind of a moving target. Search is complete. I was just kind of shooting from the hip on that one. Don't hold that against me. So a lot of the media really sticking it to her today. And of course, we wrap up with these final two before Karine Jean-Pierre jumps out of the room. We have one clip, but before we're done, we got to check in with Doocey time because Peter Doocey got a question, which means it's Doocey time. So let's get right to it. Peter Doocey gets a question from Karine Jean-Pierre.
Thank you, Karine. When you found out that the FBI had located even more classified materials in Wilmington, which four-letter word did you use?
Oh, Which one? F,
Oh, my goodness,
D,
Peter.
S,
Okay.
C?
President Biden is still intending to run for re-election in 2024, right?
I'll just repeat what the president said after the midterm election, which is he intends to run. I'm going to be very careful from here, as you know, because we are covered by the Hatch Act, and I'm not going to speak further to his process.
Is there a precedent for people running for president after FBI agents search their sock drawer?
Say that one more time. Say that beginning part.
Is there a precedent for people running for president after FBI
It sounds like
agents?
It sounds like you already know that the answer to that question. Look, here's what
I
I
don't
here's
know the answer to
no,
that question.
Here's
An
here's
FBI search of a
here's-
president's residence
here's-
is a big deal.
Here's what the president's going to focus on. He's going to focus on continuing to deliver for the American people. That's his focus. That's what he focuses on every day. That's what he's been focusing on the last 2 years. And nothing is going to change that. You think about the bipartisan infrastructure legislation, you think about the Inflation Reduction Act, you think about the Chips and Science Act, those, the
Filibuster.
bipartisan one, the last
Yes,
two that I
go.
mentioned, done in a bipartisan way, that's what the president wants to do. He wants to continue to deliver on his economic plan that is going to build the economy from the bottom up, middle out. That is what matters to the president.
Go,
The
Peter.
House Oversight Committee chairman says this document situation has all the makings of a potential cover-up.
Yes.
Is President Biden involved in a cover-up?
Yes. So is Karine.
We have been very clear here from
Yes.
this administration. The president has been very clear that he takes this very seriously. When it
Not
comes
that
to
seriously.
when it comes to classified information, when it comes to classified documents, and that his team has been fully cooperative with this legal matter.
You were not cooperative. They told you to stop searching for documents in November. You kept searching for documents and you found them in December. Why is that?
Anything else, Peter? And I'm going to be very serious. You asked me kind of a question that everybody laughed at, which was interesting question to ask.
We do want to
But
know, what words
any
you
other,
use.
Any other underlying questions that you may have, I would refer you to my colleagues, the White House counsel. I'm going
Can
to
they ask them that question? I wonder what four-letter word they used.
continue to be prudent. I'm going to continue to be consistent and refer you to any questions you have there.
All right, that's from Karine Jean-Pierre. So what four-letter word? We're not sure. You can probably come up with a whole slew of them. That's kind of probably what everybody at the White House was doing. F and mother and son of a, the whole thing was like not good at all. All right, so we wrap up here. The final question from the press before Karine Jean-Pierre packs it up and escapes out of the room comes from this fella. Are we ever going to hear from the president about this? We know he's a potential criminal suspect. He's very likely in the same wheelhouse as Donald Trump. Many talked about him being a criminal defendant. Is he going to talk about this or not?
Go ahead.
Just two quick ones. One, I know the presidents have answered a few questions here and there, but is there any plans for the president to come out and sort of address
Don't
this
hold your breath.
investigation in a more fulsome way, give more of a detailed timeline? I know you're referring us to the counsel's office, but I'm wondering if we will hear more fully from the president himself on this matter.
Look, as you just stated in your question to me, the president has addressed this, about this a couple of times. And I don't have anything to announce right now, but he's going to continue, again, to take questions from all of you, as he has done these past several months, these 2 years. And he's going to take these questions as he understands on behalf of the American people. As
What
you
is
guys
she
ask
saying?
Questions and
He's going to take those questions as he understands from the American people.
do your reporting. Just don't have anything to announce specifically on that question. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Bye. See you, Karine. Oh, man. So we don't get much out of her at all, which is not good. So the White House is scrambling. They're trying to piece together what exactly happened. Of course, we'll continue to cover. We'll see if there are any big changes taking place at the White House. Thank you for liking this video wherever it is you're watching. Thank you for subscribing if you're just joining us here today. We have more to get to. Let's continue on. Now that we have Karine Jean-Pierre having a difficult time with this story, been that way for the past couple of weeks, is the White House getting a new chief of staff? It certainly seems that way. You remember this guy, Ron Klain. Probably you're familiar with him from Twitter if you happen to be on there. He basically lives on there. He's retweeting all the time, just constantly, just retweet. Evidently, he is going away. There's a couple articles saying that it's bye-bye time for Ron. We're going to read that article. But first, let's start with a quick eulogy from Karine Jean-Pierre, because she got asked about this today at the press room. Karine, there are these rumors about Ron. Is he dead yet?
And there was a reporting that Ron Klain will be stepping down as chief of staff, being replaced by Jeff Zients. Can you confirm that, and when will that change or will be effective?
So look, I know many of you have a lot of questions on this. I know that you might have a lot of questions today on this particular story. Don't have anything to preview or share or announce at this time. I do want to take just a personal point of personal privilege, as when the president was senator would say.
Okay.
Look, Ron has
Strange.
been an incredible boss. He is someone that I've enjoyed working with every
What?
day. And many of us, and I think all of us here, are a part of the Klainiacs. If you don't know, I would suggest you go on Twitter and find out what the Klainiacs are.
Don't do that.
But
Don't
he
do
has
that.
been an incredible
Spare yourself.
leader, an incredible boss, as I just stated. And we credit the president.
Did he
as
die?
we
Is he
should,
dead?
For the impressive.
Can we get a welfare check
legislative
on Ron
successes,
Klain?
Historic successes that the president has had the first 2 years. But in part, it was because of Ron's leadership, incredible leadership, that we were able to get that done. So again, don't have anything to share with you all today.
Other than my eulogy.
On this front, but again, Ron has been an incredible leader.
And we'll never forget him.
Just an out of context praise for Ron.
He said, what was that? Just like out of context praise for Ron? Weird. The hell was that kind of a comment? He's not dead yet, Karine. All right, take it easy. All right, so we're going to go through and learn more about this new White House chief of staff who's going to be coming in. Ron Klain is going to be shown the door. And then this winter of death fella is going to be in charge. And so he's going to be running the White House. His name is Jeff Zients. We'll learn a little bit more about him right after we talk about our friends over at Goldco. Because as you know, things are scary out there, my friends. If we've got inflation, we've got war, we've got all sorts of new policies. We've got the Biden administration printing more money in the past 2 years than the previous 100 years combined. Our national debt's over $30 trillion. Inflation's the highest we've seen since 1982. It's only a matter of time before the entire house of cards comes crashing down. If you have retirement savings, IRA, or anything like that, your money could be at serious risk out there. Talk to my friends at Goldco. See how you can protect your retirement with gold and silver before it's too late. Very easy. Go to robertlikesgold.com. If you go there, they'll give you $10,000 or more in free silver when you open a qualifying account. It's over at robertlikesgold.com. And I do like gold. And Goldco is a great company, A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. You can see how vibrant and full it makes you look if you get it. ABG, always buy gold with your friends over at Goldco. Go to robertlikesgold.com. All right. Now, let's learn about why Ron Klain is going away. The story breaks from the Washington Post. They say, in the midst of all this White House chaos, the White House chief of staff plans to leave. You see this fellow right here. He's been in the White House since the beginning, and he now plans to step down in the coming weeks. He played a central role the first 2 years. Two people are familiar with this, saying that the presidency is entering a new phase. During his tenure, he led a polarized country, led through the pandemic, and they have already named a successor. Klain would become the first a member of the inner circle to leave the White House. His exit would come just as Republicans take control of the House of Representatives. So the big question that we had is Ron Klain leaving on his own volition, or is Ron Klain being exited by the White House? Are they unhappy with what they have seen here over this last several weeks with this entire saga? Did he have any role in it? Or is he abandoning ship because he doesn't want to, he wants to get out of the blast zone? He knows the Republicans are coming in. They're going to be coming in hot. They've already explained they're going to be demanding investigations. Jim Jordan, James Comer, all of them have set their sights on the White House, and Ron Klain's going to be smack dab in the middle. We saw a pattern like this with the FBI and others. Remember, they all started leaving too. Guys like Tebow and others exited pretty rapidly as soon as it looked like the Republicans were going to win. That was about 6 months ago. They all started exiting. Klain, whose plans were first reported by the New York Times, has not set an official exit date. He's told colleagues he'll stay on through the State of the Union on Feb 7, will assist in the transition, say several people close. Top candidates are Jeff Zients, Anita Dunn, a senior advisor to the president, which is just hilarious because Anita Dunn is the same person who's married, evidently, to one of Biden's lawyers, right? Biden's lawyer, she's married to either Richard Sauer or Bob Bauer. I think it's Bob Bauer and Anita Dunn. Let's check that. Her husband is Bob Bauer. Yeah. This is Anita Dunn, and her husband is Bob Bauer at the White House. White House counsel. Okay. So in other words, the White House would appoint, if it's not Jeff Zients, which we think it is, if it's not him, if it's Anita Dunn, it's going to be his lawyer's wife. Perfect. So Biden's chief of staff, vice president, and others, neither Klain nor the White House responded to comment. And so that's interesting. Became a chief of staff after serving in senior positions for Obama and Clinton, also worked for Gore and Janet Reno. These are lifetime bureaucrats. Called it one of the most successful tenures of a chief of staff in a long time. And many people are, that's kind of the standard thinking on this, is that this was an interesting departure because the White House had so much success, right? They didn't get blown out in the midterms like many people suspected they might. So why would there be a big changing of the guard unless they're expecting something to happen, or this little document dilemma has proven to be more than they can take? Washington Post also tells us that Jeff Zients, this guy, is now set to be the next chief of staff. So it's not going to be Anita Dunn or anybody. It's this fella here with a big fat, what is that, a pin on his phone there. Here's what he looks like. This is what the story tells us. Jeff Zients is going to be the next chief of staff, going to replace Ron Klain, especially expected to leave in the next couple of weeks. Zients left the White House in April after leading the pandemic response. Oh, great. We have a clip of this one. He returned to the White House in the fall to help Klain prepare for staff turnover after the midterms, a project that was ultimately limited in scope. But in recent weeks, Klain has assigned to him different projects, which some view as preparing Zients for the top role. Klein's expected to step down after February 7th. White House spokesman declined to comment. Republicans have already launched a barrage of investigations into the administration. Merrick Garland has appointed special counsel to investigate Biden. Zients comes to the job with a vastly different profile than Klain. His first job was during Obama. He spent most of his career in the private sector. He has only ever worked in the executive branch with limited political and campaign experience. His personal Twitter account has no posts, which is very different than Ron Klain, who's just tweeting all day long over there. But colleagues have praised Zients as a skilled manager who engenders deep loyalty to the people he oversees, incredibly well qualified, and so on. Now, they wanted a woman for the job. Only men have ever served. And is he a white guy too? Oh my gosh, he might be a white guy. This is I don't know. I don't want to presume anybody's self-identified, ethnicity, but man, that's kind of a scary thing. So the Biden administration is apparently becoming white supremacist at this moment. This is also the fella who shared this very interesting message with us back during the COVID hysteria. Look at this scene from the new incoming chief of staff to the Biden White House, delivering a message in front of this very dystopian backdrop. You see the Führer, Anthony Fauci here, director of the NIAID, up here in the top left of your screen, and Rochelle Walensky over here in the top right of your screen. And they are sitting in front of this backdrop with all of these official logos so that we know how official and real this is and how backed by science it is. And then we see Jeff Zients, COVID-19 response team update. What a bunch of wackos. Let's listen.
We are intent on not letting Omicron disrupt work and school for the vaccinated. You've done the right thing, and we will get through this. For the unvaccinated, you're looking at a winter of severe illness and death. For yourselves, your families, and the hospitals you may soon overwhelm.
They want to protect all of the vaccinated lives, but the rest of you are just going to have a severe winter of illness and death.
On not letting Omicron disrupt work and school for the vaccinated. You've done the right thing, and we will get through this. For the unvaccinated,
you're all going to die.
You're looking at a winter of severe illness and death.
Great.
For yourselves, your families, and the hospitals you may soon overwhelm.
Can you imagine? You remember they talked to us like this? We just sat around and let them all just talk to us like this in our own country. Our elected leaders, all of these people, you're all going to die unless you do exactly what we say, or you're going to overwhelm our hospitals and kill everybody anyways. Absolute monsters. So he's going to be in charge of the White House. Of course, we'll continue to cover it. Thank you for liking this video wherever it is you're watching it and subscribing, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. We also are asking ourselves, is the press secretary going to be exited as well? Rumors that Karine Jean-Pierre might be shown the door or conveniently moved over to a different role, maybe in the new campaign for president for the Biden team. Questions came up on Fox News. They were asking themselves whether she was going to be around much longer, given the fact that she has a very difficult time, answering questions, which is a primary responsibility for her job. Is Karine Jean-Pierre going to be shown the door soon?
KJP. So I asked you earlier, how much longer can KJP bob and weave on this topic? Next question, how much longer does KJP have in this role?
I would think probably within the next couple of months, we'll see a pivot to John Kirby as the White House press secretary, particularly if Joe Biden announces he's running for president. If he does announce, then KJP or Karine Jean-Pierre has an out, right? All right, she'll be the communications director for the campaign type of thing. But John Kirby should have had this job right after Jen Psaki left, not Karine Jean-Pierre. And particularly in this case, because remember, these are national security implications in these classified documents. So Kirby, coming from the Pentagon as their spokesperson, should be out there a lot more than Karine Jean-Pierre. But at this point, I can't even watch these press briefings anymore. If I have to hear one more time that the president takes classified documents very seriously, which somebody's been tallying online, I think we're up to 35 times she's said that.
Bingo.
I'm sorry. It's like everything's being played on a loop at this point,
Yeah,
guys.
that may be.
It's brutal. It's like a brutal thing. Round and around we go with Karine Jean-Pierre. It's just nonstop. And so we ask ourselves, is she going to be around much longer? There's a new individual who entered the game who might be a replacement. His name is Ian Sams. And evidently he was one of the Biden team members who was first brought into the loop, a spokesman for Biden's White House counsel's office. And he was out over the weekend communicating his position and speaking on behalf of the president, hitting the media airwaves. This is Ian Sams on with MSNBC explaining Biden's documents to the press.
And can you give us a sense of how many classified documents we are now talking about total across all three locations?
Sure, it's a good question. And actually the answer to it is a little bit complicated because of this point that I'm making about the integrity of an ongoing Justice Department investigation. The Justice Department is going to be looking at all sorts of questions like that throughout their investigation. We want to be very, very careful to be respectful of the integrity of that investigation, to not speak too much about the underlying contents and materials, especially things that we may not know all the answers to.
Okay, so he's basically the same thing. Exactly the same thing as her, right? It's not. Was that any different? Did he say anything any different? That's an ongoing investigation. We can't talk about this. It's a very simple question. How many documents? Is it a binder of documents? Is it a box of documents? Did they look like the boxes that was at Mar-a-Lago? What are they individual sheets of paper? Are the papers printed on front and back? We'd like to know all of that. But they've been very, very obscure about this. They don't want to tell you that because it's probably a bunch of documents, unfortunately for them, and they don't want you to know about it. So he is basically saying the exact same thing. So I'm not sure that Karine Jean-Pierre's job is in any harm or any threat. Here's another clip from Ian Sams, who tells us that the president takes it seriously, which is exactly what Karine says.
And so, Ian, my question is, again, because some of these papers are found that are related to the president's tenure as vice president, and even going back to his 36 years in the United States Senate, a lot of people are wondering, how is that possible? There are rules in place for the handling of classified documents. So how is he in this situation?
Well, I think you heard the president's lawyers speak to this exact fact, and you heard the president speak to this fact. He was made aware of this by his lawyers, and I think that there's a really important distinction here. He is proactively cooperating here because he takes it seriously. He wants the DOJ to conduct a thorough review.
Because when he was in possession of those documents, he didn't have any legal authority to do that. Like, they have to come and do all of that. That's why he takes it seriously. But they haven't changed anything. They haven't communicated anything. They're not altering how the White House handles classified documents. So he has no regrets. Ian Sam explains that one as well. But why did the president say he had no regrets, though? I mean, this is the fourth batch of documents. Certainly now he has regrets, right?
Let me ask you about the president's own words. He has said no regrets on this matter. What does he mean when he says no regrets?
Sure. Well, I think it's really important to take the soundbite and understand the context. He was asked a question by a reporter about the disclosure publicly of this information. You know, I think that he was asked specifically, do you regret not disclosing this information to the public earlier? And I think that the answer, and of course he said he had no regrets, and the answer is because he's been promptly, his team, his legal team, has been promptly disclosing information to the proper authorities as a part of an ongoing investigation.
All right, so he is a little bit of a better communicator than Karine. You see what he did there is he took the question that was based on a premise that was bad, and then he sort of rewrapped it around with a bunch of additional context, changed the question into something that he wanted to answer, which was about the process after the documents were discovered. Okay, she was asking, does he have regrets about taking the documents? And he didn't answer that question. He said, oh, that's a really bad question for me. So let me go ahead and change that. And he changed the question about to does he have any regrets about the process, which is not what she asked at all, obviously, but he didn't want to answer her question. He wanted to answer his question. So he just answered his question, and it sounded pretty good. Karine Jean-Pierre could learn something from this fella. He's not as bad as she is at this. Let's take a look at one final clip from him. Ian Sams.
Has the FBI searched the president's home in Rehoboth, Delaware?
So I'm going to be very careful here not to speak ahead of potential investigative steps by the DOJ. We're in full cooperation with them. The president's lawyers, White House counsel's office, we're being totally cooperative with DOJ as they move ahead on this. So I want to be very careful not to talk about potential investigative steps. But I think
he's got the same script. I think they just took out the Karine Jean-Pierre chip and they just inserted it right into this guy. She needed a break, so they just shut her off for a couple minutes.
It's important to know that, you know, the president's lawyers are talking with DOJ, are being cooperative as they ask for material or information, and that's going to continue. That's consistent with the president's commitment from the very beginning.
So then you're not going to answer the next question, which was, has the White House already given DOJ access to that house now that the Wilmington search has been
definitely not answering that either.
I think the statements that the president's personal lawyers put out last weekend, for example, noted that they have been in coordination with DOJ throughout this search process. Those are discussions that are happening between the personal lawyers and the DOJ. We want to be really careful not to speak ahead of any of those steps.
Because they don't want to answer any questions. So that poor host, he's like, all right, so he should have just said, so what are you doing here at all? Probably should have looked at his producer. Who is this person? He's not answering anything. If I wanted a guest that didn't answer any questions at all, we would have booked Karine Jean-Pierre. I wanted somebody who's going to answer something, and this guy evidently won't. So, all right, we'll see if Karine Jean-Pierre becomes also obsolete and joins the likes of Ron Klain. We'll, of course, continue to cover it. But we also have reaction from the Democrats. Democrat politicians backpedal in the wake of the Biden document scandal. We see a whole slew of them hit the airwaves over the weekend, starting with Nancy Pelosi. We're going to also check in with Senator Coons. We've got Dick Durbin along with Joe Manchin, who all are sort of reversing course a little bit on their take on the Biden document saga. Starting with Nancy Pelosi. Pelosi was on with Chris Wallace, who is still at CNN, I think, until they fire him too. And he did something very interesting. He went back to the clip bank and he dragged up this old clip of Nancy Pelosi. And he said, you know, Nancy, you were pretty aggressive out there against old Trumpo. What's the current situation in your mind as it pertains to Biden?
Here's what you had to say about Donald Trump and his problems this summer. Take a look.
If the nature of this, of these documents is what appears to be, this is very serious.
Yes.
Very serious.
Did you see her head nod? Look at her face, man. Look at this. She's got a cocked jaw a little bit. It's like a cocked. That's how serious she is, man. If these documents are what we think they are, we're all going to die. Let's listen.
This summer, take a look.
If the nature of this, of these documents is what appears to be, this is very serious.
Very
serious.
Do you think that classified documents showing up in Joe Biden's office, home, 6 years after he was vice president, do you think that's also very serious?
Well, it depends on the nature of the documents. Yeah. What I said, as you were listening, was
I didn't hear
if
that.
the nature of these documents is what it appears to be. We don't know.
Oh, we don't know. Yeah, we don't know. Just like you didn't know with Trump. But you look a lot less hysterical right here there, Nancy. Well, we don't know on that one. And it's a little bit different. Well, because they trust Joe Biden and they don't trust Trump. So we've got more reaction from the various senators. We've got Coons, we've got Durbin, and we've got Joe Manchin, who had a very interesting take. But let's first check in with our friends over at 4patriots.com, which is an amazing place and an amazing sponsor of this show, because I got to tell you the story about this. There's a tree branch, this tree happened to be in Ohio in 2003, and it broke and it hit a power line. It shut down 21 power plants. About 100 people died. Crazy story back in 2003. We now have a power grid in our country that was designed back in the 1800s, if you can believe it. Even the White House can see it. They're saying that 2/3 of the grid are at least 25 years old. And so they recently announced billions of dollars to update it. But how long is that going to take? That's why having your own solar power is more important now than ever. And you can get the Patriot Power Generator and get a solar generator that doesn't even need to install in your house because it's portable. You can take it with you, even use it inside. It's powerful enough for your phones, medical devices, even your fridge. And right now, you can go to 4patriots.com and use code Robert to get 10% off your first purchase on anything in the store, including this Patriot Power Generator. Look at this beauty. You'll get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order, plus free shipping on anything over $97. And a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. And so you can go to 4patriots.com, use code Robert, start building your stockpile today, and get this beautiful, beautiful Patriot Power Generator. And you can also pick up some survival food so you don't starve to death while you're there. And support our friends at 4 Patriots. We turn our attention now to Senator Coons, a senator who has been a longtime Democrat, somebody who is very in favor of Democrats, and he is on a show on ABC. Coons gets asked about the Biden documents. Let's listen to what he says.
But how can he say he takes classified material seriously when some of what was found may have been in his home for more than a decade? And
that's the type of hysterical we want to see here on this show.
Seemingly had no idea.
Excellent question. Yes, we saw that same type of hysteria during the Trump Mar-a-Lago saga. I'm happy to see it now here. Who is this woman?
But how can he say he takes classified material seriously when some of what was found may have been in his home for more than a decade?
Yes.
And he seemingly had no idea.
Yes, great question. And she's got that sort of tone in her voice. She's trying to make it sting.
Well, the important point there, Martha, is that he had no idea. As you know, if you're serving in the Senate or as vice president or
That's
president,
not true.
you literally get millions of documents coming through your office week in and week out. And as you get more senior and as the matters that you're handling are more important and occasionally more classified, the volume gets higher. So
yeah, and sometimes you just shove them in a drawer somewhere. You're like, oh gosh, this again?
So I do think this was inadvertent. The whole point of having a special counsel is to ensure that and to give the American people confidence in that. But frankly, Martha, I also don't think this is an issue that's keeping Americans up at night.
Martha, Senator, come on, bro. You got to find the frequency in the room here. She was just doing the same, the same concern. She was just as concerned as she was with Trump. It's keeping her up at night, man. These are nuclear codes or something that could be floating around Hunter Biden's friend group. Now, he said something in here very interesting, that the president didn't know about it. They keep going back to this. It's intent, it's intent, it's intent. And this was not the position that they had when it came to Trump. Trump, they said it was simple possession. They said it doesn't matter if it's declassified. The presidential records don't have anything to do with it. It's not applicable. It's simple possession of classified materials. That's it. That was the base layer. All of these whack jobs on Twitter were arguing this left and right. And in fact, I think that they maybe are not that wacky. I think the law actually does say that. And we talked about it with Bill Barr. We talked about all the risks to Trump and how ridiculous the law was and all of that stuff. They were the individuals who told us, no. This is we need these laws to be this strict. We don't need intent. This is why. Who cares about intent? It's basically like a strict liability crime. If you do it, you're guilty. That's it. Because these secrets are so sacred and so safe. But now when their guy does it, they drag out that old intent thing. Right. And we are very familiar with this intent because we said that when it comes to the obstruction charge, when we went through the Trump affidavit, there were 3 different documents or 3 different charges that we reviewed. One of them was the obstruction charge. The other 2 were the simple possession of DNI, right? Defense, whatever it was. And now they're trying to flip that around again. And I think ultimately this is where we're going to see it. If they do decide to charge Trump, which I think is getting less and less likely by the day. Every time there's another batch of documents, it's a lot less likely Trump has any consequences from this thing. But if they are able to do it, it's going to be based on this intent. They're going to try to bifurcate the two. They're going to make the Biden situation, they wouldn't charge either one of them with simple possession crimes, but they would charge Trump with obstruction, Biden without obstruction. But again, I don't even know that they can get away with that. They'll look so bad. Let's see what other senators have to say about this. We turn our attention now to Dick Durbin. Senator Dick Durbin is asked about this. And, there are 2 different parallel special prosecutors going on literally right now. Are there double standards? And what should happen here, Senator?
I want to play something that you said last year about the classified documents found at his Mar-a-Lago resort.
It's an outrage. It is a literal outrage for the president to take this important information down to his home in Florida and then store it in a closet.
Unbelievable.
With traffic, people back and forth in his resort and golf course is an outrage.
Outrage.
Is it also an outrage for the current president to have what appears to be multiple classified documents in multiple locations?
4 batches?
At its heart, the issue is the same. Those documents should not have been in the personal possession of either Joe Biden or Donald Trump.
Wow.
But what happened and followed from it is significantly different.
Oh, okay. What happened afterwards is significantly different. You see how they're splitting that a little bit? He's going to say afterwards it was obstruction for Trump, but not for Joe. That's why Trump should be prosecuted, but Joe should not. Now, again, this is 2 for 2 on this one. Chris Wallace just gave Nancy Pelosi the old political backhand by playing her prior clips. This woman on CNN is doing the same thing with Dick Durbin. What's going on here? Why are they making them eat their own words on this one? We'll have to wait and see. Our final clip here today is from Joe Manchin. And Joe Manchin has been raising some eyebrows, talking about a potential presidential run or a potential sort of moderate caucus within the Senate. You could have him join with Kyrsten Sinema. Now you might have sort of a 49 to 48 to 2, or whatever the numbers are. Do the math. I don't do them, here. But whatever the numbers are, I think, because if he was an independent, that would be Kyrsten, or is Bernie Sanders also an independent still? I don't know who it is. But the point is, if there was a group of senators that could break the Senate majority, and if Manchin and Sinema and maybe Bernie or whoever else is a senator, if they could create this caucus, then that would be very, very interesting. And it sounds like he's maybe flirting with that idea here in a minute.
Welcome back. Chuck, it's always good to be with you. Look, I want to get into the debt ceiling. I want to get into all this stuff, but we got some developments overnight with this classified documents. An FBI search. White House said it was coordinated with the FBI, but we now had an FBI search into former President Trump's. Now we have an FBI search into President Biden's residence. What's your assessment of how the president has handled this situation?
Well, I mean, it's just hard to believe that in the United States of America we have a former president and a current president. They're basically in the same situation. How does this happen? Only thing I can tell you, Chuck, is when I go into the SCIF with the secured documents, they always ask, are you clean when you walk out? Yeah. They want to make sure you're not carrying anything out. And it might be a mistake. You might just put it in your other papers, but you double check right there. So that, to be held accountable and responsible is what we all are. And to put those in unsecured spaces is irresponsible.
Do you see similarities, or do you see more differences in how President Trump versus how President Biden handled it?
I'm not going to make that decision, but I think that Merrick Garland did the right thing by putting a special counsel.
Wow.
And I think that we should wait until the special counsel rather than making this a political circus. Let them
Too late
find
for
out
that,
the
buddy
facts.
boy.
What was one more damaging? Are they both about the same? Did not cause any problem? Or is one more reckless and irresponsible than the other? I can't answer that question, but I think the special counsel will do a better job than the politicians and the political circus that is going to follow.
President Biden said he had no regrets in how he handled this. Do you have any advice for him on how he should handle this?
Oh, I think he should have a lot of regrets. Yeah, I would think that. I said whoever's responsible.
Should have disclosed it.
Accountable, and I use whether it be my chief of staff or my staff that we're doing this, and I'm looking at. Then I'm going to hold someone accountable. But basically, the buck stops with me.
So you think he should be out there and look? I messed up. Maybe I didn't do it. Just say it. Just fall on your sword here.
We're all human. Yeah. We make mistakes. I can tell you, I don't think anyone intended. He sure didn't intend for it to fall in the wrong hands and use it against our country. I know they didn't intend that to happen. Could it have happened? I don't know. And yeah, you just might as well say, listen, it's irresponsible. It was something we should have had a better check and balance on.
Now,
yikes. So
former President Trump defied a subpoena. So in that sense, the way each has handled it is different. Do you acknowledge that?
Absolutely, much different than the other.
Okay, yeah, good job there.
I hope I didn't make any mistakes. I hope no one was compromised.
Yeah, good job. He wants to make sure that he can make a distinction between Trump and Biden. Biden should be prosecuted, right? I'm sorry, Trump should be prosecuted, right? Because Trump did something worse. He denied, ignored a subpoena, and Joe Biden's been very cooperative, and so Trump should be executed with the death penalty, but Biden is perfectly fine. We will, of course, continue to cover it. Thank you for liking this video wherever it is you're watching it. Thank you for subscribing. If you'd love to join us, we do the daily live stream. We'd love to have you come back by hitting that subscribe button and sticking around. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We covered a lot of ground today. You can see some serious updates on the Biden confidential document saga. A lot of open questions. We'll add some of this to our mind map. We'll continue to develop this and see what we can uncover. But as we are done, now let's turn our attention over to our friends and those of you who support the show with your very generous super chats. I want to thank you. And I want to start off by thanking our friend over on Rumble, who is named Penny Whitbroad. Welcome, Penny, and thank you for the very nice super chat on Rumble. Says, when officials say, quote, documents, how many pages are there? Pages. I don't know. For example, a 1,200-page intelligence report can be referred to as a document. With Trump, they told us how many pages. You're exactly right about this, Penny. I think it's a good question. They try to obfuscate the numbers. They don't want us to know. And that's one of the points that I think we saw today in the questions and in the readings that we had is the press release from the lawyers. They said that they came out with items with classified documents and other materials. The heck does that mean? I think it means a box, that they were walking out with boxes of materials. But I also don't know exactly. It'd be nice if they clarified that for us. We also had another one come in on Rumble from IR5 says, Karine gets $180,000 a year. No wonder she's so happy all the time. It's an easy job, man. It's a pretty easy job. If you don't actually have to answer anything, like honestly, you just have to go out there and just say the same thing over and over again. For 180 grand for a couple hours and you don't know anything that's going on. Did you know about this? No, I really didn't. Honestly, no, I had no idea. No, I really don't know anything. All I do is I come out here and I just repeat whatever's on this piece of paper and they give me a lot of money. It's a great job. Everybody gives me hugs. Another one came in from Penny. Thank you, Penny, today. Says Biden didn't declassify these docs. He couldn't have. He said he knew nothing about them, so that excuse is moot. Yeah, he was vice president or senator. He didn't have the power to do that, whereas Trump did. And that's a pretty key distinction. So why was he in possession of them in the first place? He never should have been. Trump at least had a claim for them, right? Trump had a claim to them and made the claim. So he engaged with the system. It's almost like you can make your argument and lose. That's better than just being in constant criminal violation of the law, right? Trump wasn't like openly stealing documents. He said, I have a legitimate legal claim to these. And I think it is a good legitimate legal claim because that same sort of pretext was used by Clinton and many other presidents to keep their documents under seal. So I think it's a great point. And we'll see how much of that comes into play over these next few days. Let's jump over. I saw some super chats come in from our YouTube friends. Thank you very much, YouTube, as well. And let's see what we had in our house over here. Doing a refresh on the screen. And the first one came in from EXSSFDLT. He says, it sounds like Biden is resigning. Kamala becomes POTUS and recommends Hakeem for VP, newer, younger Dem party. Wow, that's an interesting play-by-play there from XSSFD. Yeah, it sounds like, yeah, so it either Biden resigns or Biden just doesn't run again. So let's say Biden doesn't run again. He can sort of peter out on his term, and then it's an open primary. And then Kamala runs, Newsom runs. Maybe Newsom picks Hakeem for VP. Then you have a geographically diverse and an ethnically diverse candidacy. But if your way could go too. I think my that alternative that I just detailed is a little bit less fireworky. Biden just peters out. You don't make it awkward for Kamala, because if you slot Kamala in now, then she's got to start basically campaigning for the presidency and being the president, right? I don't know. We'll see. Interesting. I like it. Prino is in the house, says, do you think the cars rented by the Secret Service in Nantucket had documents in the trunk when they burned up in the Hertz lot? That was around that time. Oh my gosh, was that right? That's right. Remember those? I remember that story, Prino. Yeah, those Secret Service vehicles. They rented a bunch of cars and they all just lit up. Like the next day randomly in the what would they be doing in Nantucket? And how far away is Nantucket from Wilmington? Because that's in what? That's in Mass. Yeah, it's close, right? That's an interesting one. I don't know about that one. But what Prino is talking about is there was this weird story, I guess, in Nantucket. Secret Service flew in, rented a bunch of rental cars, did their secret servicing, and then the cars all caught on fire. Like there was some sort of chemical in there. They couldn't figure it out. They all just ignited spontaneously. Maybe the Biden documents were in there. Great question. Fred Pedamonte is here. What's up, Fred? Says, could this all be to stop Trump in 2024, disqualify them both from running? Yeah, it could, right? You could. I mean, so I think even if Trump is indicted, he could still run, right? He could be indicted and convicted. Although I don't know if the national security crimes have some sort of disqualification implication, but I don't think so. I think there would be a constitutional challenge to that if they did. But I know that the J6 committee, I think part of what they were trying to do was pass some sort of resolution under the insurrection clause to say he couldn't run again. So I don't know that legally this would disqualify him if he is charged, but I do think that politically, if he's under federal indictment, that is a big, big problem for him. So yeah, if Trump's under federal indictment and Biden's under federal indictment, suddenly you get their alternatives that look a lot better, right? Whether that's a DeSantis or a Nikki Haley said she's probably running. We'll definitely get a Mike Pence candidacy, probably some others. So now you've got two of the, the front runners, Biden and Trump, are under federal indictment. They probably don't win. We'll see. STFU says, FBI agents like rats fleeing from a sinking ship. They all abandoned ship. The question is that what Ron Klain is doing, or is Ron Klain being asked to leave, being shown the door? Alan Harkins in the house says, great information. I appreciate the time you take to keep me informed and to keep me from being cast down with the ignoramuses. Thank you, Alan. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for the dono. Thanks for being here. Well, I appreciate being here and sharing with you. I learn a lot from you. I'm constantly scouring the chats and seeing some of the feedback and the corrections, and we have a lot of fun. So I'm glad that you're here, and I appreciate your support, Alan. Chris Wolney also says, do the right thing. Also, quote, brought to you by Pfizer. Yeah, that was on the draconian, dystopian, speaking from on high, winter of death. You will die. Everyone you love will die. Unless you do what Rachel Walensky says to do. All right. So those are all from our friends on YouTube. Thank you, everybody who sent those in. Of course, we'll take a quick look at our YouTube. I'm sorry, we were just on YouTube. Let's take a quick look at our locals tips and our Twitter thread. because we have some good friends over on Twitter too. And if you want to join us over on Twitter, you can follow me at Rob Govea ESQ. And of course, we've got a lot of Watcher community members who are over there as well. And so let's see if there's anybody watching the show over there. 5 people, out of control. Holy moly. That's good for a Monday. Usually it's like 1. All right, let's see what else we have here in the comments section. If there is, and there are some comments, it does appear to be. We're doing a scroll check just to make sure there's some appropriate things here. All right. There are. So we're getting this queued up. First one is here from Danny McWilliams. What's up, Danny? Says Biden's America. This kind of looks like the Hoovervilles. Remember Hoovervilles back during the Great Depression? Yeah, and these actually look a lot nicer than our current homeless problem. Yeah, Hoovervilles were set up during, President Hoover, and then they built these little, homeless towns that look like a village like this. That's what it looked like previously. It looks a lot worse, around the streets of LA. Even around here in the streets of Phoenix, we're starting to see a lot more of it. James Pepper is here. He says, not Paul's device. Oh, wow, that's amazing. So James is here. That's outstanding. Thank you for identifying yourself. Normally, it's just Paul. It's Paul. Yeah, it's basically me, Paul, and that other guy who are watching right now. James Pepper. What's up, James? It's just us over here. Just us 3. What's up, everybody? Good to see you guys. It's nice and comfy in here with you. In a year or two, questions, why can't you give my dad a job as we go through a snowballing recession? Danny McWilliams is sharing some comments over there. Says the real story is... Oh, here's another one. So good to see you, Danny. He says, no matter who is POTUS in 2024, it's going to take 10 to 15 years to undo everything that has been done. Yeah, I would say at least. And I think that it's all the pandemic damage. The pandemic damage is probably going to take generations to repair. It's really, really sad. But that's where we are. We had another one come in from Donna Evrenler. Says, this is what holiday cooking looked like at the Biden. That's our friend Jill. She's roasting some holiday classified documents. Pretty typical over there. We had another one from Donna sharing a Ben Garrison cartoon. Another one from Rebecca. Another one from Rebecca John. Here it is. Hold on a minute. Hold on. Let me change it. Let me restart the GIF. If you build it, there it is. It's going to restart. If you build it, Field of Greens, he will come. It's from Field of Dreams, that movie, right? If you build it, they will come. Yeah, if you build it, get your Field of Greens, man. Go to Brickhouse Nutrition. I'm going to have to save that one. Thank you for that one. So I'm going to bookmark that one right now. Bookmark that one. Here's another one. Winter of Death is in the house. We got some more memes in the house. Here's our Winter of Death friend. Here's Billy Mays, Joe Biden. But wait, top secret, classified documents. There's more. You can get your Wilmington residence. You can get your Rehoboth residence. You can get your White House residence. It's crazy. Barbara May says, why is the press secretary even a job? They don't offer anything we couldn't get from a simple tweet or post. Why are we wasting money on this? Says Barbara. I was thinking that same thing, Barbara. When I was watching that today, of all days today, I was like, couldn't they have just zoomed this one in? They're all sitting there super close to each other and they've all got masks on and stuff. And I'm like, why don't they just zoom this stuff in? This one came in from James, says Newsom can't run. He'd be put in prison. And Omnipotent says, yeah, Joe takes things seriously. He takes them without proper authorization. Seriously. Those are from our Twitter friends. And we're grateful for everybody following us over there on Twitter, on Rumble, on Locals, all of the locations where you can support free speech and free speech platforms, anti-censorship platforms. We're grateful for your support there. Now, we are jumping off. We're going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our after party. You can see there's a whole amazing community chatting away over here, and we've got a bunch of comments to get to. And so we're going to jump over there to say hi to Miss Lucky. Oh, it's Jake from Oxford. Jake Sullivan is on our community. He's from Oxford. He's smarter than us. So I usually have to slow down and really read his comments slowly because they're way too sophisticated for us. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We are going to come back here tomorrow to do it all again, and I hope you join us. Before we wrap it up, I want to thank our sponsors on the show. Big ultra shout outs to our friends over at 4patriots.com, where if you go there, you can get survival food, survival gear, save 10% off by using code Robert. Also check out Goldco. Go to robertlikesgold.com. There you can learn how you can protect your retirement with gold and silver. We also have a brand new sponsor called brickhousenutrition.com. Amazing company. I have been trying their Field of Greens for the last 2 weeks. I'm vigorous, baby. I'm vigorous. I'm vibrant. And they're actually really good. It's actually a good thing to consume. I used to try greens. I think I talked about this on our locals platform. I've tried greens before, and it tastes like somebody put a chunk of grass and dirt into a blender. That's not this at all. It's actually really, really good because it's healthy. It's like just healthy stuff, just all made healthier for you to consume. Of course, our law firm, the R&R Law Group, we are online at rrlawaz.com. We help good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope, and we offer free case evaluations. We would love to be able to help somebody that you know or love get things back on track. We offer free case evaluations. Check us out, rrlawaz.com. Also, ultra shout outs to our mods who mod down the fort for us. Thank you to Vientikiss, who I think is on game night tonight. We got Play and Hookies mod down the fort for us. I think I saw K-Bean in the house earlier. Just Cause. We miss Lean. Big shout outs to Ronnie Cole, who is in the chat. I also saw Zulu come by. Shout out to Geomancy. He's also on YouTube. If you'd like to subscribe to his channel, you're welcome to do that. They keep the chat nice and orderly for us, and so we're grateful for them. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We're going to leave it right there. We are going to go over to locals for our after party, but we'll come back here tomorrow to do it all again. And I hope to see you here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Have a tremendous evening, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.